English Forward presents.
That's no problem at all. Sometimes that happens.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
no, great.
happens.
Thanks so much. It's lovely to be chatting to you.
To you too, thanks.
Are you ready to kick off?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, excellent. I'm really excited to be chatting to you today. And I just wanted to introduce you to our audience. Today, we're going to be chatting to Carolina May. She's a digital media specialist. She's been involved extensively in Forex and trading, and she's a crypto and blockchain expert. Carolina, welcome to the English Forward podcast.
Hi, thank you very much for having me today.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from and where you're based in the world?
Well, I'm from Argentina, and I'm in Argentina right now. I have lived in Canada and Spain for a little over 10 years.
Okay.
In Spain is where I had my first contact with the FX industry. I worked for 10 years at FX Street, which is one of the main portals providing information to Forex traders. And from Forex, I jumped into the crypto world, where I worked for media covering all the ICOs happening, all what was happening in the market with cryptocurrencies, and everything related also to blockchain projects.
So that must have been an exciting time.
Yes, especially in the past few years that we have had this roller coaster with cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, exactly. So did you
But
actually grew up in Argentina?
I grew up in Argentina, yeah, and I moved out of here after high school. But that's how life cycles work. I'm back in Argentina. I have been here for now almost 5 years.
Oh, that's excellent. I must say I've never actually visited Argentina, but it's definitely a place I'd love to go and visit.
Oh, it's a really nice place. It's in the end of the world, as I said, but it's a really amazing place.
I remember when I traveled to the States with my daughter, we met an Argentinian girl. They were doing the same sport. They were doing judo. And they were so friendly to us. And I think it's just Argentinians come across as very warm, family-oriented, friendly people.
Yeah, that's one of our characteristics. We are in constant economic crisis and a lot of things going on socially, but then we have a society that is very warm to newcomers and very open to different cultures because we have had so much immigration.
Yeah.
That we have a very broad and mixed culture here.
Yeah, very diverse culture.
And part of all these economics comings and goings that we have had here made us also like a very open society to actually cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's very receiving of it, and I suppose looking to solutions to try and sort out the economic challenges.
Yes, the Argentinian peso has almost no value. People look to the US dollar, but also crypto has been coming up in the last few years.
Okay, that's excellent. And how did you actually start out in the digital world?
How did I start, sorry?
How did you start out in the digital media world?
Well, I started in the digital media basically working on advertising, and then from there working with different companies, especially brokers and banks, helping them develop their brands online. And then I started also leading digital projects. So it wasn't only about advertising, but also about tools for brokers and banks that they could use either for themselves or to provide their own clients, which were traders. So from different tools that will analyze the market and show trends in currencies, also like economic calendars, news feeds. So working with different projects and seeing what was the need in the market for those products.
That must have been incredibly interesting.
Yeah, it was a lot of hard work, but it's really great when you see your products live online and then distributed through many channels.
Yeah, that's amazing. If I had to ask you, who is Carolina May, what would you say to me?
Wow, that's a tough one. I am a very passionate person for the digital world. I think it gives us a great opportunity to connect worldwide for interests more than from the origin of where you're from. So right now, for example, if we are talking about blockchain or currencies, this is something that can interest someone either in Argentina, in Asia, in Europe, or wherever. So I am very, very passionate of all what the digital world has brought in terms of how to connect with each other.
It really has opened a lot of boundaries, hasn't it?
Yes, and this is what amazes me of this world, and that whatever product you create can be anywhere, because it's not something you can touch, but it's something you can have there that can help improve many, many things in different areas. So I think it's a great world there. And basically I'm a passionate for digital, passionate for nature, so it's like those are my two main things.
That's excellent. When you talk about nature, is that your leisure time? What do you do in your leisure time?
I run. I love running.
Is that
I,
trail running?
I'm a runner, and I love to run, especially in the mountains, cross trail. So any opportunities also I can get to travel to run marathons, but that are on the mountains. That's my other passion as well.
That's amazing. And have to come and visit South Africa sometime. We've got some beautiful trails here.
Yeah, I know. It's for now I have done so mainly in Latin America, and yeah, Europe, Africa. There's tons of places that I have on my list.
Yeah, geez, that's amazing. And tell me, Carolina, what inspires you?
What inspires me? Personally, it's anything that is a challenge. Uh, Basically, anything that demands like to think a new way of doing things. That's what inspires me. So that's what I try to do when working, but also in my daily life. I have two kids, and with them, any challenge for me is the best thing that keeps me moving.
Yeah, well, I think having two kids is a good challenge. I've also got two kids. So
Yeah, well, that's a big one.
yeah, that's exactly right. Is there anything absurd or unusual that you love doing?
Anything absurd or unusual? Wow. Uh, I have a tendency to just love, as I run, but also I love walking. So anytime I don't know if it's absurd or not, but people that come with me, I always say it's very close. Let's walk, and I and I manage to take people to very, very long walks, and people tend to tell me when you say it's close, it's definitely not close.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, that's definitely an optimistic outlook.
Yeah.
You know, you've worked on such a diverse range of businesses in finance and crypto, etc. What's the most unusual business or business idea that you've worked with?
Well, you mentioned like a lot of businesses. I actually started working in the film industry. So yeah, I switched suddenly from the film industry into the finance world. So that was a big
That is a
change.
big switch.
Yes, basically I used to work in production, so it had a lot to do with organizing, dealing with people, so it wasn't completely a different business area. But then if you ask me what's the most absurd, I don't know if it is absurd, but one of my projects was opening a design technology sex shop, online sex shop in Argentina.
Geez, that sounds pretty well.
Yeah, so yeah, it's from film to finance to the sex world, but trying to bring some of the business that I see in that I saw in Europe about how the approach was for this world to Argentina, where it was a very taboo world. So suddenly I was talking in conferences about cryptocurrencies and blockchain, and on the next day I was on the radio speaking about design and tech products for this other industry.
Gee, that
So,
must have been funny conversation with your friends and family around the dinner table.
that for sure. Uh, Especially when they saw these boxes I had with the products.
I can imagine that. And tell me, when you worked with big companies like that, how did you typically organize it? To get a desired output, desired result, because it's a massive project you're talking about. You're talking about a long period of time designing the whole process and then implementing and watching it come live. Did you have a particular sort of a roadmap that you followed?
Yes, basically, it is important that everyone involved, from ITs to assistants, designers, anyone that needs to create the content for that, to the sales team, they are involved in the project. That is one of the main challenges, because when you have an idea of a product, and the ideas are not mine, usually are from someone in the team, but to make that idea into something that will work and the audience will want, either to consume as content or for a company to buy the product from you, it's very, very different from the concept to the actual project. So it is very important that a very basic draft is created that is validated constantly throughout all the actors that are participating in the project creation. And the main challenge also is to make sure that you have deadlines, because otherwise, when you're creating something, there's always something to improve. So you need to make sure that at one point you say, okay, we will go live, because we know that we will need to change things, but we need to be live in order to understand what we did right, what we did wrong, what's missing.
That's such a key thing, because so many people I know just want to perfect their product so much they never actually launch.
Yeah, so that's a big problem when you're launching and there are many people involved. Always, everyone tends to find more things that they would like to change, but it's so important that you go live and you get that feedback from the actual user and not only from the team. So as long as you have a concept that everyone agrees on, then you know you'll need to change and evolve, because thinking that you will be able to launch a project and that will be the final thing and you can go and do something else, that's one of the biggest mistakes you can do.
And if you had a team that was split in, when to launch, were you the tiebreaker?
Well, when I'm leading the teams, I'm usually the one setting those deadlines. You need to have a minimum of things that need to be done. It's like a checklist where you say, okay, as long as this is working and this other thing is working, we can go live. It's not just going live because we set the deadline. But yeah, when I was working or when I work with projects, it's usually me when say, okay, as long as this and that we are applying all this, this is when we are going to launch. Everything can be discussed. As I say, we're not launching if something is not ready, but we need to set some parameters that we say, okay, if we have this, we can go live.
Yeah, it's important to have someone that can actually, stick to the deadlines and actually launch. And I just think, just looking forward to the future with blockchain, and especially education, which is where I come from, and how it works with digital media. I think it's really, really exciting. I mean, from your experience and what have you, what impact do you think blockchain can have on education?
Well, I think blockchain can do a lot for education. I think there is blockchain has already started impacting the finance industry, the health industry, and other industries, even the real estate one. But education, I think it's something that is just starting. For education, there is a closed circuit with universities, especially, where it's like you go to a university, you get a degree. After that, when you want to get a job, you need to show that degree to show that you have that background. This is a process that has worked for hundreds of years now. So I think blockchain can come and help disrupt this. Not blockchain by itself, because I think there has been many things disrupting education. Like if you see with the internet now, everyone has access to lots of content and can see even the full content of a degree online without the need to go into university. So that's not where blockchain is, but blockchain can come and say, okay, what's the use we can make of this to make sure that we still have the prestige of a university and the access to all this content, and how can we make sure, for example, that a student can demonstrate all this? So how can blockchain work? Blockchain works as a place where all transactions are verified and recorded there, and you cannot alter them. So if you have a degree and you have to demonstrate to someone you have that degree, for example, if you have all that in a blockchain-based technology, you can make sure that this degree has not been forged and that you have actually taken that university course and gotten that degree. That's on one end.
Yeah, that's very important, isn't it?
That is one of the most important. Looking at numbers, I think it's like there are like 30% or 40% of degrees that are shown when you want to get a job that are actually fake degrees. So either now companies request for that degree to the university itself, that requires a lot of work when you're interviewing candidates, or you could have, and there are being created right now technologies that will allow you to check this and make sure that this degree that you're claiming you have, it's traceable within the blockchain. And this is one of the main things universities are facing with the degrees they provide, and the easy it is to now to fake a degree. Speaking about how universities and the content are distributed, I think right now there are many online universities like Udemy, Coursera, that are providing courses online. And a lot of this is competing with universities, but universities still have the power to have a degree. But I think there is a need in the workforce to have more degrees that are adjusted to the needs the company has. So either you take course in these online universities or in a university that has online courses, but it's still a degree. With blockchain, you could create courses where you can take different courses in different places and build your own degree. These are projects that are happening right now and that can help in the future to create an education space that is more adjustable to the actual workforce, and making sure that then you don't have this degree of people leaving university in the way. uh, what do I mean by this? That if you can collect credits and make sure that everything is traceable through the blockchain, in the end, you can make sure that with all this, you build your own personal agenda in education that maybe can serve when you go to get a job. That is not that I had 3 years in this course in university that I didn't finish, plus this course I took online, plus this, but you can centralize and build your own blockchain where you say, okay, these are all the courses I took, this is all my education I have had, and this is verifiable
I
throughout.
like that because it makes it a lot fairer for people. But you know, the one thing you touched on a little bit earlier, which I just wanted to revisit and ask you, is obviously there's prestige attached to going to a university, and that's what they're selling. They're selling the prestige of completing a degree at a certain institution or establishment. And I know in the employer's world, that's changing because often people come out from studying something and the information that they've received is either outdated or not current, or they're not in the right vein to actually implement that job. What are your thoughts around that?
Well, I think that universities will need to open up. Right now, if you see the prestige of a university, it's like, well, we have 3,000 people applying, we managed to accept 200, and we are getting these people out. Blockchain is the complete opposite. It's like, this is an open, it's not centralized, but an open technology where everyone can access. So in terms of concept, it's opposite to university. So I think it will need to change in some way, that you say, okay, I'm in MIT, Stanford, or any these well-known universities, but I have taken other courses somewhere, for example, and because I can verify all this through blockchain, I can make sure, okay, I'm not going to take all the courses to get this degree from the university, but I can make a combination of both. And I think that will serve a lot to employers as well. One of the main careers that is very much very popular right now, that which is not popular but requested in companies, are every technical career, everything that has to do with IT, with robotics, engineering. There are many people that started working and they never finished their degree. But then if there's a way that you can track the experience plus the courses they took, plus any additional things that they have done while they were working, and say, okay, but this person has the credits enough to have a degree, then you can still, or could still, have a degree from a well-known university that has also taken outside inputs or and accepted outside courses and experience and everything in order to give a degree to that person. And I think that will benefit universities and will benefit the companies as well.
I think you're right, because as you say, with people learning and then going getting work experience, you find that after a couple of years, somebody might be moving from a lower level into a management position and they need to study further. And they could go and do additional courses and supplement their education, and that would add to further degrees, higher studies, and actually allow them to progress on something that's actually building on top of each other instead of something that is just being lost.
Yeah, like right now maybe you take a course on something and then you have the degrees and they are working separately. The idea is that this will work together to make sure to make each individual's profile that will also serve the companies better instead of having to being verifying everything that the person has on a CV that many times is exaggerated or it's not exactly as they displayed there.
And how do you see that being verified on the blockchain? You'd need a centralized hub or database that could actually do that. Are there any examples in the marketplace that you see, or companies that are putting stuff together where education, as you've said, a degree from one place, a course from another place, can be collated and put into one blockchain?
Uh, there are many projects going on right now. As I said, a lot of them, most of them are in their early stages. You have from universities like the MIT being involved with a company called Learning Machine. There is they created a company called Block Search in order to track uh, all the path that the student has done. I know Sony and IBM are working also in an educational program. There is a cloud storage projects going on, digital identity management platforms. So there are many projects going on. This is such an early stage in all this, and there is a hype, and when there is a hype, there's all these projects thinking that everything needs to be in the blockchain. What we need to understand that in the blockchain, anything that is there also needs to make sure that you will be either charging or making some money out of it. Not that everything can be there just for the sake of being there. It's not like a cloud storage solution where you just leave stuff there. So it is difficult right now to say, okay, what projects will succeed. I think like with any hype, then there is an adjustment that you start seeing. But I think that it is really good that the process has started. I think that it is good also that you have involved companies, universities, and many different actors, because as I say, this cannot work independently from, let's say, okay, universities cannot work anymore, we'll go to something else. It's a change that needs to be done within the society itself. So how long it will take? I think it will take many years. I think that at least 5 to 10 years before we really start seeing results out of the projects that are happening now, and saying, okay, this is the way we should go. And even no, and even with the technology, like right now we are putting so much hope into blockchain. Maybe it's not blockchain, it's the blockchain B that will happen in a few years.
Exactly right. I think we're in day one. And
yeah, a lot. One of the issues that people face when working in blockchain is the speed of transactions, for example, and transactions not only in the way of like a currency and cryptocurrencies, but also if you need to register anything happening there, you need to make sure that if this is solving the speed that problem that we had when you had intermediaries, you need to make sure this is solved here, because we are selling this as this is why we should use blockchain. So there are problems still to be solved within the blockchain technology.
You know, I don't know if your friends are like my friends, but if I bring up the conversation of blockchain, 80% of my friends' eyes glaze over and they don't really know what I'm talking about. They might have heard something, but they're not really up to speed with what's actually happening. And you realize how just such a small part of the population are actually involved, and more people need to get involved.
Yes, what I think is blockchain became popular with Bitcoin, because I wouldn't even say cryptocurrency. So people have started hearing of blockchain because of cryptocurrencies. It is now the challenge is to separate that from the cryptocurrencies in order to make the society understand its benefits. At the same time, I think that in the end, what society will understand is visible projects. Why do the society associate Bitcoin with blockchain? Because they understand it's a currency, and that's how they say it. So the same will happen with blockchain. I don't know if they will understand blockchain, because it's the same as people don't understand the language for software writing. Like if you talk about C++, people don't speak about that. They just speak about the software itself that they are using. So I think in a way it's going to be the same with blockchain.
I think it's exactly right. It's that interface between the man in the street and the developers that has to be seamless, so that it's intuitive. Because trying to reteach people from scratch is very difficult, but getting them to do something in a better way with tools that they already understand is actually quite easy. So it's
Yeah,
that
in the end, what people will use is not the blockchain, but the software that will allow them, for example, in education, to track all their educational records throughout their lives. So then they will know that software instead of knowing the blockchain itself. Uh, what is interesting about blockchain is, yes, to make sure that people, especially in education, they know this exists and what the platform does, because then when you think of a project, you can say, okay, I can create a software somewhere else, or I can create it in blockchain because these are the benefits. But more than the regular human beings that are working on the street, it has to do with education and knowing it exists. The same, you need to know technology and the benefits, and why when you think of a project, you need to make sure that technology is involved.
So if we look at education, and obviously there are going to be new solutions and innovations coming to the way people learn and do courses, study, etc. If you were thinking of it from a digital media perspective, and you were thinking of getting this message out to the population, I'm thinking about adoption here. Do you have a simplified message so you focus less on the blockchain aspect and you focus more on the software and user interface with the general population, and they adopt the technology just by virtue of the fact that they are utilizing a piece of software that's very, very useful for them and has a use case and can be learned easily because it's intuitive? Or do you focus more on the blockchain side and try and educate them as to what blockchain's potential is?
I think there are two sides, and it depends on the audience. But I think that for the general audience, it is important that you promote, as you say, user cases. So when you're talking about media and the access to, for example, if you want content or music or TV shows, and you can access all this through the blockchain, because you can have micropayments, and these can be tracked not through an intermediary, but directly to the artist that is, or the writer that is providing that content. This is how people will understand how it works, more than saying blockchain itself. That doesn't mean, as I say, I think blockchain should be taught as a platform when you go to schools, universities, that this exists, and what are the benefits for people that will build projects there. But then for the audience, I think the adoption is mainly, okay, you have two platforms, one where you, for example, you pay per month and you get all the music you want, or you have micropayments and you pay for each piece of music you want to consume. And this can be done in blockchain much easier and with less cost than if you do it in another platform. Same with content, written content. When you pay for a subscription to a newspaper online, well, you can pay per the content you consume with micropayments and getting this payment directly to the author, or seeing how to work in a different way with the aggregators, the content aggregators, that I think also will need to rethink their position.
Yeah, look, that's a very important point you bring up, because we know it's easier now than ever for writers and artists to share work with the world. But, you know, they can publish it through platforms like ebooks and Amazon, or upload music to streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Music. But for them to actually get the real benefit in a monetary term is difficult, because there are a lot of middlemen, and those middlemen take a big bite of the profits from that content that's created, from the revenue that's come out of it.
Yeah, and it they depend on a middleman to tell them, okay, who access their content and what's the amount of money that they will be getting from there.
Can I just want to ask you there? Let's just say we have a teacher. They produce a course, and the course is a very popular course. And traditionally now they would go and sell it on some online platform, and they would have to wait for report backs from the actual distributor to tell them how much has been sold, what the fees were, the commissions, and ultimately what they earn. How different would that look if that whole process was on a blockchain?
Well, in blockchain, you can have every transaction recorded. So you could see exactly all the way your content went through and which people your content reached. If you ask me if this will eliminate the middleman, which is the content aggregator, distributor, or whatever. I don't think so, because you still need someone or a platform that will promote your content somehow. But you could have a lot more control over where that content is going if someone is grabbing that content and trying to do like plagiarism with it and publishing it themselves as if the content was produced by themselves. So you can have a more transparent way of following that content, and in return receiving the amount that you should for that content you produce.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you there, because there are obviously two camps. There's the centralized camp and the decentralized camp. And what I'm hearing from you is there's a middle ground. And we need to figure out how to get the two camps to work together to get the best outcome ultimately.
Yes, think that a lot of content aggregators, they just provide content from different sources, and they are the ones deciding who gets what. So this will make that you have to rethink how this process works. So then the middleman also will need to rethink their business model as well. This doesn't mean they will disappear. The same happened with, like, you had all these music companies, and then suddenly you had all these online programs where you could be listening to the music, so they didn't have control. I think that every business like will have to adapt somehow, and that will happen. It's not that companies will disappear, maybe some will, but that's how business evolves whenever like a new technology appears.
Yeah, and I think also, you know, an important point to discuss is the reviews from real buyers, because often, you know, when we're going to buy anything online, well, I go and I look at the reviews, but actually verifying that the content was, number one, created by that person, and secondly, has really been relevant. We know that in its current state, review systems can often be fooled by fake reviews. Can you just tell us how blockchain can solve that problem?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like, if you can have the review attached to someone that actually consumed that content or product or whatever, for the third person that's watching that as well, will have a lot more transparency. That reviews that you now see online, and you never know if the person actually went there, used that, or did something with that product.
So for that to actually take place, if I was buying let's just say I was buying an English language course and it was on the blockchain, would I need to be actually registered on the blockchain with a profile for that review to be verified?
Well, it's not that you're registered in the blockchain, it's that you're registered in a platform that's based on the blockchain.
Okay.
So it's not that you're registered directly to the blockchain. You register, you create a technology on the blockchain that will work with the blockchain, and then you make sure that technology will allow that someone that uses that course writes a review, and that the third person that will access can track that this person actually used that course or took that course.
So we're back to speaking about that interface that's easy for a student to use, that actually is backed up by the underlying technology of the blockchain.
Yes, exactly. The technology, the interface works on the blockchain, but it's created by someone that is using the blockchain interface to provide that, in this case, these courses.
Yeah, I think it'll be critical to adoption and how people actually use it, is the functionality and ease of use of the actual interface.
Well, you were speaking about how educating people about blockchain. I think people will need to understand this. So why is this course that is happening in the blockchain? How is this benefiting me compared to another course that I just go into another platform and take? What can I get in terms of going into a platform that works on the blockchain? I think this is where education and communication basically comes.
Do you think that token rewards would actually encourage the adoption or the decision to use a blockchain-backed product?
I don't know if token rewards that like there is a gamification of education. So anything that will engage people in what they are doing will get them to use or to learn. I don't know, it comes to my mind Duolingo, where you, if you don't study, I think there's a bird that dies or something like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Get you
so
on a
in
streak and you got to keep going.
yeah, so in the end, it's how it works with the tokens. What can you do with them, or something that will engage them to continue, apart from the content having to be, of course, good quality content as well.
I think that you've nailed it there. It's good quality content, because if there's something that's relevant, you've got verified reviews and people are getting success, they can get employment, etc., etc., then you're going to have success with that product. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter how good it is. People won't buy it and accept it, and it will fail.
Yeah, you need a good content, you need something you get out of it, like a badge, a token, whatever, that says you now have this knowledge, and a way that you can show this. So in the end, it's like any education, any course you will take, the difference to have it in the blockchain is that you can track all these, and if you manage to make it in a way that you can track that this course was taken by this person, and so they have now this type of knowledge, and everything that you can create out of that, then it's a great combo.
Carolina, you're a cryptocurrency and blockchain advocate. You're a pioneer in a brand new space in what will eventually become the new normal, some form of it. Can you, in a few minutes, just give us an indication of what you see the future of blockchain and education would be, or maybe?
I think that in the coming years, like there will be a growing interest in this technology. But it is open, it is necessary to open more minds and educate more people about it, to make sure that there is an evolution to this technology and there's also an acceptance in society. I think we are right now in like an exploratory period, and that the more people pushing from different media, from different universities and from different companies, will help us make the most out of it in the coming years.
Yeah, I think when the bigger companies also start getting on board and start putting money behind it, there's that saying of Warren Buffett's, a rising tide lifts all ships.
Well,
And
you have
eventually,
Sony, IBM, so you have big companies right now.
yeah,
They are big. I have seen them in events speaking about it. So they are big advocates, and I
that's
think
excellent.
that's great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. With all the projects that you've been involved in and what have you, you've got an incredible amount of energy, you've got vision, you've got focus, you're involved in, advising companies about cutting edge technologies, new frontiers, breaking old rules, defining new boundaries. What motivates you? How do you keep going? How do you maintain that high level of energy?
Well, for me, it's great when there's a purpose. So when there's a team and a purpose of say, okay, let's build something, let's make something innovative, let's make something different, let's communicate it. So that's my biggest motivation for me, being able to do that, working with great teams, especially multicultural teams. This is what I was telling you that is great about digital.
Yeah, it's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what makes it great and what makes it worth to get up very early in the morning, because I'm in Argentina. I usually have to wake up at 4:30 a.m. and that's great when you see a result and you have people happy in Asia, you have people happy in the US, in Europe, in Africa, or wherever they are.
Yeah,
So,
I think I love that part too, is being connected to people across cultures, all with one vision and focus, and wanting to achieve that result. It's a wonderful experience to be part of.
yeah, and then you meet maybe in a conference once a year, and it's great. It's like the people you have been working with. presenting a project, a product, that makes it worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when you start out your day, do you have a daily ritual or a habit or a belief that you feel is integral to your success and how you set up your day? Is there something that you do, a practice?
I start so early that I actually, as I say, my day starts when I stop working. 'Cause I wake up early, I put on music and sit down in the computer, look at the things I have to do that day, and then usually by 7 or 8 in the morning, then is when I get my coffee. Maybe I take a shower. So I kind of start the day upside down, and I usually finish my day running. So
No, that's cool. So you hit the ground running in the morning, straight out of bed and onto the computer, and you end it with running.
yeah, exactly. I know like the normal thing would be to do it the other way, but for me, because I start so early, I go straight to work, then I have my breakfast, and then then I start the other things.
Yeah, I actually find I like to work early as well. I also get up at 3 or 4 in the morning because there's no one about, and it's actually quiet. I just find that without the distractions, I can get so much more done in a short space of time, and it just
Yeah,
allows me to think.
I'm a morning person, so if I had to do it the other way, I would never be able to.
Absolutely right. You know, it was once said that if a user can't find it, it doesn't exist. It doesn't matter how good the project is. So, in your line of work, what do you think's key to actually getting a project to stand out?
Well, as I said, I think before, is that the main thing is that you have something online and that people actually start using it and you get the feedback. If you create the most amazing project and it's there and no one sees it, then the project, yeah, it does exist, but it exists for you, maybe your mother and your cousins. But when you do something, you need to make it visible. You need to get feedback. That's a great thing about the internet, is that it's not a one-way communication, but it's a two-way communication. Uh, and that you listening is one of the hardest thing to do. So you can believe that you're doing the greatest thing, but if no one needs it or no one uses it, uh, then that's not worth the effort, nor it's useless actually.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And just on that point, obviously data is important. How important would you say data is versus intuition, or do you use a combination of both?
You always start with intuition, thinking, okay, this would be a great product, but you need to start getting feedback early on. And your intuition can be correct, but then maybe with some additions or tweaking something will make the difference between a product working or no one using it. So intuition is just the best thing that motivates you to do something. And usually that intuition also comes from what you're seeing, observing, or listening from your audience, from the street, or from wherever. So it is important to start with intuition, but not just stay there.
And do you rely on a lot of feedback from your team?
Yeah, it's feedback from the team. As I said, there's constant feedback. You need to filter or unify, because you can get a lot of different feedback talking about something. So then say, okay, this is not working. Maybe it's not someone's feedback or someone else's feedback, but let's see from there what we can get out of it. Let's test it with a user, or with the audience or whatever. So yeah, intuition is what will guide you to also make sure that what the feedback you're getting, that you can interpret it and taking it the right way. Not all the feedback is valid as it comes. You need to interpret it and say, okay, the feedback is that I should change this, but the way they are saying I should won't work because I have this experience, and etc.
Yeah, well, I think that's the mark of a true leader, which is obviously what you are. You've got lots of success, and being able to listen to and respond to a team, but also keep a clear head and make the tough decisions is what's contributed to your success. So I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. I've taken lots of notes, and I've really, really enjoyed chatting to you.
Okay, thank you again very much for having me. And well, good luck with.
I look forward to meeting you at a conference somewhere in the world sometime. Maybe
Hopefully. Hopefully, and let me know, of course, if you come to Argentina.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much, Carolina. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
You were listening to an English Forward production, the web's largest Learn English community and Q&A site. Everything you need to understand and improve your English. Visit EnglishForward.com.